My brother's ex manipulated my entire family into thinking I was crazy after I found his hidden letter proving she *righted him for insurance money. So I connected with her past victim's family and exposed her deadly pattern. Hey Reddit, this is going to be a long one. It's hard to explain how it feels when everyone you love believes you've lost your mind. Especially when you know, deep down in your gut, that you're the only one finally seeing things. I'm 29F, and for most of my life, I was incredibly close with my older brother, Danny 31M. He was 2 years older, taller, louder, and always had this magnetic energy about him, the kind that made strangers laugh and made our parents proud. I was the quiet one, the shadow who followed him around in admiration. He never made me feel like a tag-along though, not once. He called me Star, short for Star Girl, because when we were kids I used to stay up late naming constellations from our backyard swing set. He was my hero. Danny met her, her name was Alina, then 28F, 3 years ago. She was stunning, not just physically, though that's what everyone commented on first, the icy blue eyes, the effortlessly glossy hair, the model-perfect posture. But she had this polished charm, the kind that made people feel small, without ever raising her voice. My parents were obsessed with her. She's mature. My mom would gush. She's so composed. Not like the other girls he's dated. Even my dad, who rarely complimented anyone outside the family, once whispered, "That girl has a good head on her shoulders." But something about her immediately put me on edge. Maybe it was how she never smiled at me unless someone else was watching. Or the way she asked weirdly invasive questions like, "Do you take medication? Have you ever been hospitalized? Is your hair naturally that frizzy? Or do you just not brush it?" And always with that half laugh, like she was just joking. I tried to brush it off. Maybe I was being jealous or overprotective. Danny seemed happy at first. He'd talk about her constantly, always with that far-off tone like he was trying to convince himself it was real. But slowly things started to change. First, he started canceling our weekly sibling dinners. Then he stopped texting back. Then he showed up to my birthday 3 hours late, looking pale and weirdly quiet, with Alina right behind him, her hand glued to his arm like a leash. I'll never forget that night. She pulled me aside and said in this syrupy voice, "I hope you don't take this the wrong way, but maybe give him some space. He's grown up now. You don't want to smother him." That was the first time I snapped. I told her to back off, that Danny and I had always been close, and she had no right to insert herself like that. She laughed this cold, almost mocking little chuckle, and said, "You're cute. Really? I can see why he looks after you. But don't worry. I'll do that now." I didn't even tell Danny. I figured he'd never believe me, not with how mesmerized he was. But everything spiraled after their wedding. Yes, they got married, barely 6 months after meeting. It was a private ceremony, which meant I wasn't invited. Neither were my parents, but they didn't seem to mind. They're adults, my mom said. They're allowed to elope. Stop being dramatic. Danny didn't even call to explain. Just send a mass text with a photo of them on a beach in Aruba, smiling, arms wrapped around each other like a couple from a magazine cover. For the next few months, I barely heard from him. When I asked her parents if they'd seen him, they just shrugged. He's busy, they said. Marriage changes things. Then, on a rainy Thursday evening, I still remember it was the end of March. I got the call. Danny had been found unresponsive in his home. They ruled it a suicide. I blacked out in the hospital waiting room. I remember screaming. My knees hit the tile. My heart stopped for what felt like hours. They said he'd overdosed. Sleeping pills. Alcohol. No note. Alina was devastated, they said. She sobbed to my parents, collapsed into my mother's arms, wore sunglasses at the funeral and clutched the urn like a Hollywood widow. I didn't cry. Not because I wasn't heartbroken. But because something was wrong. Danny had anxiety, sure. He'd been through rough patches. But he was the most careful person I knew. He didn't drink. He kept track of everything. His last few texts to me weeks before had been upbeat. "Gotta tell you something crazy soon," he'd written. "It's about Alina. Just wait." And then silence. The day after the funeral, I went to his house. Alina was staying elsewhere temporarily, and our parents had keys to water the plants and pick up mail. I needed to feel him. His scent still lingered on the couch. His favorite book was left open on the coffee table, spine bent, bookmarked with a receipt from a bookstore dated 2 days before he died. I wandered into the office. It was small, cramped, barely lit. I flipped through drawers, opened a notebook. Nothing strange. Until I reached for the top shelf and something slipped. A manila envelope had been tucked behind a row of old tax binders. It hit the floor with a thud and I froze. It was sealed. The front was scrawled in Danny's handwriting, to be opened if anything ever happens to me. My heart stopped. Inside were 3 things. 1. A handwritten letter, several pages long. 2. A printed copy of an insurance policy. 3. A flash drive. I didn't even read it there. I grabbed everything and drove home like a madwoman, hand shaking so badly I could barely grip the wheel. I read the letter sitting cross-legged on my bedroom floor, tears dripping down my face. Star, if you're reading this, I'm probably gone. I know how that sounds, but please, don't believe anything Alina tells you. She's not who she says she is. I think she's been drugging me. I've been feeling weird, forgetful, groggy. I found pills in her purse. I Googled them. They weren't vitamins. I signed some paperwork I don't remember agreeing to. I think it was life insurance. I was too tired to argue. If I die suddenly, please look into it. Please. I trust you more than anyone. Don't let her get away with this. I didn't sleep that night. The next day, I went to the police. I told them everything. Showed them the letter. The insurance document. The flash drive. It contained voicemails Danny had secretly recorded. Alina threatening him, mocking him, calling him stupid for not signing something faster. They nodded sympathetically. Took notes. And then they said, it's suspicious. But not enough to reopen a closed case. Unless there's physical evidence of foul play, we can't do much. I was stunned. Danny literally wrote, she's drugging me. And that wasn't enough. I went to my parents, desperate. I thought surely they'd back me up. But no. My mom looked me in the eyes and said, sweetheart, you're grieving. Maybe this is your way of coping. My dad wouldn't even look at the letter. You always hated her. Don't turn this into some conspiracy theory. Alina found out, I don't know how, but she did. And she told everyone I was having a mental break. She started calling me unstable. Said I was spiraling. And people believed her. Soon, I was cut off from family group chats. Invitations stopped. My uncle sent me a text that read, stop making things worse for everyone. Danny's gone. Let him rest. I was screaming into a void. Until one night, I sat at my laptop and decided to start digging, not into Danny, but into Alina. And what I found made my blood run cold. There was a Reddit thread. Our legal advice. A few years old. Posted by a woman named KJ Truth Throwaway. The post was short, almost cryptic. My friend died mysteriously. His new girlfriend convinced the cops it was suicide. But something's off. She refused to give up the insurance payout. And she's dating someone new. Is it possible to file for investigation if I'm not family? The woman never named names. But the details were chillingly similar. I clicked into the comments. She had replied once, anonymously. Her name starts with A, cold eyes. Like a shark. He dated her for 6 months. My heart was racing. I cross-checked the post's date with obituaries in that area from the same time frame. Found it. A man named Eric T., 34, died by accidental overdose. No criminal investigation. No will. But a large insurance policy cashed out just 1 month later, with Alina enlisted as the beneficiary. I nearly threw up. It wasn't just Danny. She'd done this before. And I was going to find the family who had lost him. Because I knew I wasn't crazy. I was the only one seeing clearly. Finding Eric T.'s obituary was like finding the first thread in a web I didn't even know existed. Once I pulled, everything started to unravel. Eric T. had been living in Chicago when he died. That part wasn't mentioned in the post. But I found it through local death notices. His cause of death. Same as Danny's. Accidental overdose. Same age range. Same vague. Barely 2-sentence write-up. Same exact insurance company. The payout was listed in probate records. She had used a slight variation of her last name, adding a hyphen from a previous marriage, likely fake. But it was still her. The birth date matched. The signature matched. She had done this before. Probably more than once. It took everything in me not to scream. I sat in my apartment with the blinds drawn, laptop open, multiple tabs documenting deaths, insurance policies, marriage licenses. The rabbit hole was horrifying. 2 months after Eric's death, she'd moved to a different state, Colorado. The same month, she'd gotten engaged to another man. He was also dead. Died in a hiking accident. No body was ever recovered. Just a note left in his truck. And guess who reported him missing? But I didn't have enough on that one. No records tied her directly to a payout. Maybe she got smarter. Maybe she stayed just long enough to push, then vanish. But what I did have was Eric's case. So I tracked down his sister, Amanda T., 34F. She lived in Kansas now, but her old number was still linked to a media listing from years ago. I didn't expect her to answer. But she did. At first, Amanda was cautious. She didn't know who I was. I couldn't blame her. I wouldn't believe a stranger calling out of the blue, saying, "I think my brother's killer also killed yours." So I didn't start there. I started with Danny. I told her about Alina. Her charm. Her manipulation. Her voice. And when I described the sleeping pills, Amanda went silent. "Wait, she gave him pills, too," she whispered. That's when I knew I had her attention. We talked for hours. Amanda had always suspected something was wrong. She'd fought to have Eric's case reopened, but hit walls every time. No TAPSY. No talk screen. The medical examiner had ruled the overdose routine. Eric had anxiety, was prescribed medication, and they assumed he had mixed something by accident. But Amanda swore he wasn't suicidal. He had just landed a new job. He'd been planning a trip to visit her. He'd even mailed her a birthday gift a week before he died, something he always forgot to do when he was spiraling. He was happy, she said. Just like your brother. Together, we started building a case. We collected dates, mapped timelines, found another woman, one of Alina's old roommates, who remembered how off she was, how she always had multiple phones and talked in circles. I filed a second police report, this time in Danny's jurisdiction, citing a pattern of behavior across multiple states. I submitted the Reddit thread, the death records, the duplicate insurance companies. Amanda did the same on her end. Still, it felt like we were screaming into the wind again. Until something unexpected happened. An investigator from the Department of Insurance, a man named Mark G., 50s, deadpan, ex-FBI type, showed up at my apartment. "We received your file," he said. "I've been quietly tracking similar incidents for a while. Your case lines up eerily close to a few others." Mark wasn't emotional, but his words landed like bricks. He told me Alina had popped up in 3 different states under different last names, each time after the sudden death of a romantic partner. Each time, she'd either walked away with money or vanished without a trace before suspicions could catch up. "We've never been able to nail her down," he admitted. "She's smart, covers her tracks, uses slight name changes, quick moves, cash transfers, clean records. But this time, she'd gotten sloppy. Because of the letter. Because Danny left a trail. 2 months after that visit, I was called to testify in front of a federal grand jury. Amanda, too. So was the roommate. And an ex-colleague of Alina's from years ago, someone who admitted she had once bragged about knowing how to disappear. The insurance company froze the payout retroactively. They reopened both Danny's and Eric's cases under suspicious circumstances involving fraudulent claims. And Alina. She was arrested trying to board a flight to Belize. The trial was long, brutal, unbelievable at times. She pled not guilty, of course. Her lawyers painted her as a misunderstood widow, targeted by online vigilantes. But she underestimated what it meant when 2 families stood together. When 2 victim siblings sat side by side and told the exact same story, one Alina had hoped no one would ever piece together. The jury took 6 hours. Guilty on 5 counts: insurance fraud, attempted murder, tampering with evidence, and conspiracy. She's serving a 35-year sentence. I still wake up sometimes expecting to see another missed call from Danny. Or a text. Or a blurry photo of the two of us from the beach. But I also sleep knowing this. He wasn't crazy. I wasn't crazy. And the truth, no matter how long it takes, has a way of clawing its way into the light. Amanda and I still talk. We're not just trauma buddies. We've become close. Real friends. We've even started working with a foundation that helps families dealing with unsolved or suspicious deaths related to partner violence. We do it for Eric. We do it for Danny. And we do it for the ones who never got to leave a letter behind. I still have Danny's envelope tucked inside my bedside table. I don't open it often. But on the nights I do, I always read the last line. Star, if you're reading this, it means I couldn't finish the story. But I know you. You always find the truth. And I did. I found it. And I made sure everyone else did too.